So I'm back with video number two. The second film that I went to go watch today was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And I remember being a kid back in the 80s when I was in preschool. In School 15, we had our library, and we used to go to the library, and there was these books that were written for kids, but with drawings and was so dark and spooky. It left images in your head, and I remember everybody used to go in the library and they after these books, and they were called the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. They were dark. Um, they were written by Alvin Schwartz, and the drawings were done by Snell. Okay, and there were three sets of books I remember. As a matter of fact, I went and I picked them up because of the movie that was coming out. I believe it was Guillermo del Toro who was directed, or he presented it. I don't know. He did something to do with it. But if you've Guillermo del Toro's work, when it comes to Pan's Labyrinth, oh boy, when it comes to Blade 2, his work is so imaginative when he comes with these like demon type, monster type. I don't know, he's very artistic. Especially if you saw Pan's Labyrinth and if you saw Hellboy 1 and 2, the monsters were always so. It was out of his. He almost has kind of like has like an artistic um, kind of like Tim Burton. Tim Burton has his own like artistic point of view when he does his movies and all this stuff. And the same thing with Guillermo del Toro. But when I found out that they were turning this movie into a live action, telling of the, I was like, okay. I have to go and pick up these books. They were short stories. It was just like anthology stories on it was it was like a three series book. It was three books. They're not that long. They're over like 100 pages. I read all three within like what, 2 weeks. Just sets of stories, all different stories. Some of them are just stories to tell your friends when you're obviously the name of the story. The name of the book is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's just a set of different stories and all that stuff. And what Guillermo del Toro did was he picked different stories and he decided to put all the stories happening to a set of friends. So you get a set group of friends, and within this one overall story, all these different little stories, which I thought was genius, because there was no way you can translate this book into a live action movie without having a set story like Creep Show or Trick or Treat. You remember, if you're familiar with any of those movies. So this these sets of stories happen within this one group of friends, and things that I really like about what they did with this movie is what they're doing lately. I grew up in the 80s, 90s. I had my was based pretty much on all the John Hughes and all those Monster Squad and all these movies that were great, and we are missing those. But one of the things that's happening nowadays is the fact that the 80s have come, and I am so proud and happy to have had my childhood in those days and be able to relive it. Kids nowadays will never appreciate what it was to live in the 80s. Think that what we're living in is the originality, but no, there's the age of the remake. Now they get the 80s were actually better than what they're living in, but with movies and shows like Stranger Things, Stephen King's It. There's a couple of other there's a couple of other things that I can't think of right now, but 13 Reasons Why and Atypical, all these different types of things. You know, they're dealing with a lot of going back in time. We're hearing a lot of music from the 80s and 90s. We're seeing a lot of references from back in the day when I was a kid, and it's just such a breath of fresh air to see all this stuff come back. But yeah, this movie did not escape it, and that's what made me like it even more. It dealt with a group of friends. It's based not in the it's not based in the 80s. It's based in the 60s, but format of Stranger Things, and it dealt with teenagers, not preteens. So that's another thing that I really like, that these teenagers, you know, they were thrusted into being in a group because of something that happened. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but they end up finding this book of scary stories, and they take it with them, as you can see in the trailers, and because they took the book with them, the book comes to life and it starts shooting out new stories. But you find out that is something ominous, some dark presence that's behind the writing of these stories, and it starts to come to life. I don't want to tell you too much into the story. For a PG-13 movie, this movie was scary. I really enjoyed it a lot. Think that it did justice to the novels or the book series, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I think a lot of people will get a kick out of this if you're into the whole horror genre or thriller genre, because to me, when I think of horror, I think about extreme gore and extreme thriller is more of like a ghost story, and it spooks you. At least that's how I see it. This was a really a thriller that's meant for teens. If you're an adult, you'll get a kick out of it too. I was there sitting, enjoying all the imagery and the different stories and how the story unfolded. It didn't have a presence of I mean, I can see this being a series of movies. At the end of the film, it leaves it open, so you think that they might be, but it only comes down to if we shell out the money for them to make another sequel, for them to make a sequel. I'm sorry. It's a definite must. I enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see movie, go ahead and watch it. You'll get a kick out of it. If you feel you have to learn more about the story, you could books. It's called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I picked it up in Barnes and Noble. They have the whole trilogy set in a box set, so you can read the stories and then you could go watch the movie and you'll appreciate it a little more. But it's a definite watch. What more can I say? Enjoy yourself. If you need to take your girlfriend or your boyfriend or a buddy or something because you're afraid of scary movies, go ahead, bring them. You could snuggle up, whatever the case may be, in their ear, throw popcorn in their face. But all I'm saying is just enjoy it. It was a great film, in my knowledge. And yeah, I just have a great time watching this film, especially now that we are nearing October and Halloween's right around the corner. This is like the first Halloween film of the year. So yeah, what more can I say? This has been Corner. Enjoy yourself, be safe, and I will see you next time.